Hi, third graders. It's Tuesday, and we are going to go ahead and do some DMA practice warm-up problems today. So let's take a look at our first problem. We have 5 groups of 7 equals 35. So just as a reminder, let's think back to when we were drawing arrays using our multiplication facts. So if I start off with 5 rows, here's my 5 rows, and I have 7 objects in each row. Now, I just wanted to remind you about how these arrays work when you're looking at the order property of multiplication. So when I have 5 rows of 7, and we know that that is going to equal 35 because they've already given us that example, we know that 5 rows of 7, if I were going to turn, remember, if I were going to turn and rotate this array to its side like this, I would have 7 rows with 5 in each row. So again, remember that when you have an array, you can switch your rows and your columns to be equal to what you had in your first array. So instead of now having 5 rows with 7 in each row, now I have 7 rows with 5 in each row. So basically, all I've done is I've rotated this from here onto its side, and now I have 7 rows of 5 instead of 5 rows of 7. Now, again, it won't matter, again, how many objects, because the product will be the same, right? The product is going to be the same. So, 7 rows of 5 is the same as 5 rows of 7. And the total is not going to change because my product tells me it doesn't matter how many are in each row. I can switch the order of my factors and the product will be the same. So I can add 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, or I can add 7 groups of 5 and count by 5s. All right, what is the perimeter of this rectangle? So a perimeter is what's the length of all the lines in this rectangle put together? So I'm going to just demonstrate for you here. I'm going to zoom out, not in, but out. And every time I draw a line, that is a length. So let's say that length of my line is 6, what did they say, inches? Yes. The length of that line is 6 inches. Now, if I go down 2 spaces, the length of that line is 2 inches. Now, if this is 6 inches and this is 2 inches, so far, how many inches are these 2 lines together? These are going to be 8. Now, I'm going to draw another line here. And this line is also going to be 6 inches because these are parallel to each other. That means they're the same distance apart and they're the same length as each other. So now I've got 6 plus 2 is 8, and 6 more is going to be, 14. And then I'm going to draw another line this way, and now this one's going to be a length of 2 because I have 2 spaces, 1, 2 inches. So I've got 6 and 6. The length of these 2 are 6 plus 6, and the length of these 2 are 2 plus 2. Or if you wanted to do 6 plus 2 and 6 plus 2, again, either way it's going to work. But 6 plus 2 is 8, and this 6 plus 2 is 8. And all the length of all the lines together is going to be 16 inches. Now, that's the perimeter. Perimeter is the length of all the distance or the lines that you've drawn put together. Now the area is the amount of square units that cover this figure or covered with this figure. So if I have 2 rows and I do 6 rows or 6 columns, right? A little tight. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 2 rows of 6 is going to be 2 rows of 6 is going to be 12 square units. So area is going to be different than perimeter. Area is how many squares can you use to fill the inside of the shape. Perimeter is how long are each one of these lines together to make that shape. So a little different than what we've been used to. Area was what we used to make square units arrays in multiplication. But we're looking for perimeter. So I just wanted to show you the difference between perimeter, which is all the length of all the sides, and area, which is the square units it takes to fill the inside of a rectangle. All right, let's take a look at our division equation here. I have 5 objects. I'm going to put them into one group. How many objects are in that group? There are 5 objects in that group. 8 groups of 8. Well, if I have 8 groups of 8, I can actually break this up into 4 rows and 4 rows. So if you remember, we did have a conversation about this at the beginning of the year, where you could take these 8 rows and break it up for yourself as 4 and 4. So 4 rows of 8. And another 4 rows. So what we're doing is we're breaking up our rows into 2 smaller arrays to help us figure out what 8 times 8 is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So each one of these rows is going to have 8 in each row. But notice I have 8 total rows together, but I broke it up as 4 and 4. So I broke it up as 4 rows of 8 and another 4 rows of 8. And basically what I'm using is the break apart strategy to help me with knowing how many are going to be in here. Well, that's going to be 32. And another 4 rows of 8 is going to be 32. And when I put these together, I'm going to have, 4 rows of 32, or 4 rows of 8 is 32. And the bottom row, 4 rows of 8 are going to be 32. And when I put them together, I get 64. So that's not the only way that you could break up your array. You could also do it as 5 maybe rows of 8 and then another 3 rows of 8. That might be the way I would do it because 5 times 8 is easy to do. 5 times 8 is 40. And then another 3 groups of 8 would be 24. So 40 and 24 would still make 64. But again, it's your preference. But again, it's something that you might want to think about. So 8 times 8 is going to be 64. Now, our next problem is division. And just as a reminder, remember division is the opposite of multiplication, which means we're going to take these objects and we're going to put them equally into 4 groups. Now, if we know our multiplication facts really well, we could say, oh, I know that 4 groups of blank is going to give me 36. But if we don't know that, then we could take and put these objects into groups, equal groups. So I could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36. So when I took these 36 objects and shared them equally into 4 groups, how many did I have in each group? Right, you can see that there's 5 and 4 makes 9. So there are 9 objects in each group. And so that also tells me that this missing factor is also going to be 9 as well. Now, this next problem is your discussion problem. And I want you to, in your discussion for today, round each number to the nearest 10 to estimate what the sum is going to be and see how close you get. Round each number to the nearest 10 and estimate what your sum is going to be. Now we're going to actually find the sum today. So we have 549 and 202, and we're going to add the 2 parts together to find my total. Now, 549, 500 plus 200 is 700. I don't have any 10s, so that 40 is still going to stay 40. And the 9 and the 2 is going to make 11. Now, what does this tell me about my 10 here? That 10 is going to be added here to the 40 to make what? Right, it's going to make 50. So when I take that 700, add 40, that would be 740. 10 more makes 750, and 1 is going to be 751. Now, that's just using my understanding of place value broken up into the different parts. Now, if I want to use the algorithm, which is using my place values going up and down in columns, 9 plus 2 is 11, which is what I got here. And I'm going to carry that 10, which is this one right here. I'm going to carry that to the tens place. Now I have 40 plus 1 more 10 is that 50. So this is going to be 50, or 5 tens. And now I have 5 hundreds plus 2 more hundreds is going to give me 751. Now, a subtraction sentence that I could use to check this would be, I start with my total, which would be 751. I can take one of these 2 parts away to get the other missing part. So I know that I can't subtract 2 from 1, so I'm going to have to borrow a 10 and add it to the 1, which is 11, and 9, 11 minus 2 is going to be 9. 40, I don't have anything to subtract, so that's going to still stay 40, and 700 minus 200 is going to be 500. Notice that each one of these numbers in my addition sentence is also going to be in my subtraction sentence. So the 751 that I started with in my subtraction sentence is my total. The part that I'm subtracting is one of my parts, and the other part is going to be what I should get for my answer in my subtraction sentence. So remember, all 3 numbers should be in my addition sentence and my subtraction sentence to check my work. All right, that's it for today, guys. Remember to go back and do your discussion question, and let's have a great day of learning.